with the Summerland kids. What's up? This is episode 42. Shout out to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I think it's Douglas Adams or Douglas McAdams. We're going to fact check that, but Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, number 42.
Yes, the meaning of life.
Yeah, the meaning of so anyways, yeah, just had an interesting day on Grandpa's getting it's called a morgue. Looked it up on Wikipedia. It's essentially like a reference photo file for his work in cartooning. So like, hey, a client wants me to draw a tiger. Okay, let me go to my tiger file, and he would collect all these images in relation to looking for, so to speak. So.
No, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah. It is. It is. So
I think
the first one. Go ahead. Yeah, so
we're having a bit of a skippy
was skippy.
Bit of a skippy start, I think.
Yeah, a little
connection. I'll do the old restart thing and see if that works.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe, or what are you thinking? Yeah, we're Coffee with the Summerland kids here live. Technical stuff. So
42, the meaning of life. Try and try again.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's refresh it. Ready? 3, 2, 1.
Yeah. Woo! Coffee with the Summerland kids.
And we're back.
Here we go. Nice.
Better audio.
We're Coffee with
That's over.
Episode 42. Is it working?
Yes, we seem to be live. The weather in Summerland today is 59 degrees. It should go up to a high of 69.
Okay, but somewhere in the high 60s, low 70s is exactly in old Summerland, California, our hometown. If it wasn't for that place, Aaron and I we wouldn't be alive, man.
No, so you're digging into these files and stacking them into the sheets, and we get a sneak preview today.
Yeah. The first file that I built right here, this one, it's beat costumes, sailors, mailmen, wise men, and Uncle Sam. So it's pretty thick. That's a good estimated about 200 pages, approximately maybe 250 per binder. And then it's like, I call it kind of like Grandpa's internet. So instead of Googling something, preemptively images cut out from like scene, Women's Day, whatever magazine you could pull. I'm imagining back in the day, newspapers, of course, were a good source because so the print was essentially all around you, so you could gather that content there and chill. I guess afterwards, still like, honey, what are you doing? But you're also looking for images that you can pull and then put out. So Grandpa always asked me, like, are you building a file? I'm 10 years old, Grandpa. I don't know.
Oh, that's interesting, because it's like we grew up back before the internet, so we knew a little bit about how to use full paper, but now the files are all digital, right? You go into your computer and you got the file, little picture of the old school paper file as an icon up on your screen, and you name it what you want. But those conventions, those naming conventions, are what the search engines use to categorize different content, for display, like on the algorithms, if you're doing a search, or now even for the AI to scour and scrub, the things that like your grandpa used to do manually, each page of the newspaper.
Exactly. Yeah. So you're frozen right now. I don't know if you can see that. This is like for under soldiers. Looks like. So let's see who this is. The artist is that I'm missing the cover on that, but here's a classic for you. Two soldiers. It's probably so it's saying like bigger is better, or maybe smaller is better. I'm not quite sure on what's up there, but yeah. So are you hearing me and everything?
You're a little bit skipping in and out. I don't know if
Skippy?
if it's your connection.
Yeah,
I could kind of go a little bit. If you want to try and refresh, I'll
let me
carry
try
the show.
I'll refresh and be right back.
All right. So here we are in the virtual cyberspace. Jericho and I, it's cool to see the process. A lot of people are probably going to be able to view the archives once they're complete. Because this is history. This is comic book history. If you like the Avengers or any type of superheroes or the modern comic stuff, Jericho's grandpa was involved way back in the, I guess, 1940s. 1942 is when I looked up Katie Keene and Archie comics, and a lot of these older comics like Marvel and DC came about. And, being able to be involved in just having Jericho, the grandson of one of these comic creators, is just really cool to me. I got a couple friends that have done or are interested in doing comics, and the whole process to me is just amazing. Art in itself, whether it's comic strips or cartoons or whatever it is just incredible to see that kind of stuff. I hope we get Jericho back now.
Yeah, you're right. All right, I'm back. We'll see what kind of connection I get.
All right, you still skip a little bit.
Yeah.
I think that's one of those things. What happened? Oh, what I do? 42. I clicked the wrong button.
42. Thank you, 42.
I guess that's part of the meaning of life, Jericho, is get what you want done. Struggle is part of the life.
No, for sure.
Part of the meaning.
Yeah. I think I got a better connection now, but I'm not sure. I can't see you.
Your audio is coming through clearer now. You're not skipping on the auto. You are doing the robot. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, I honored the breakdancers in the 90s, like I would say 1998. We were already 10 years in. It was like a retro thing already back then. So are you able to make yourself come up on the screen, or?
I'll do the button thing, and I think that.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah,
I think that I'm here.
All right.
It shows me here.
Oh, really? I just can't see your face.
I'm making faces, Jericho. I'm making faces.
Yeah. So let me see if you can see this. Hold on a second. This
No,
is
I'm really excited to get the sneak preview.
yeah. So this is. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a little drawing that probably a young lady or young man sent in to my grandfather because he had a thing where he said send in submissions to him. Then he could help essentially honor the kids' ideas. Here's another one. So this was in the I believe this is in a costume file. So these are just little drawings. Here's a pretty one. So this is by Leanne Bowers, age 15, Roseburg, Oregon. So there's her little drawing. So that little drawing by this young lady may have been in the Katie Keene comic book at some point. And then she would get her name in the comic book as creator, designer of this outfit here right here. Yeah.
That looks so much like one of the Disney princesses or something.
Oh, exactly.
You know?
And then here's another one. So here's another young person, designed the, looks like they designed the font and the outfit, everything. So the kids had to pull their ideas from somewhere as well. I mean, they might just be referencing the comic book or just straight up pulling it out of their brain. I mean, this looks like kind of a Robin Hood character right there. And then you have like, his other outfits, because basically it was all about like costume changes, constant costume changes. So a little bit like theater. And then in one of the files was beat, like the beat poetry movement, like the early hippies. Essentially, the beats came before the hippies. So this is Katie Keene as like a beatnik, cool early 1960s, maybe even late 50s, like hipster chick. Isn't that's classic?
No,
Yeah.
I think that's so amazing how,
I know.
Even back in the day, I mean, today it's easy. We got social media, people share ideas. But back then, to inspire the younger generation to pick up a pen and paper and do some art themselves is so inspiring.
Exactly. So here's a little poet guy reading his poetry, probably, and here's his lady friend hanging out. Just like, so this was like a time of which like cafes in the let's say late 50s, early 60s. I mean, the cafe culture of like this one just straight up says like Katie as a Beatnik by Mona Stein. She was from Brooklyn, New York. So she's actually
all right, a New York beatnik. She got the cigarette going. She got the sweater going because in New York it's cold. Looks like there's a little art on the wall just there classic. In some cafe. That's classic.
No, right? And here's some hairstyles. So the creativity coming out of the kids was just amazing, and then totally like supercharged with that you get your name in the comic book. So essentially you became like a little art star of your neighborhood when your art was this is a real pretty one. When your work was published in a national comic book and you're given credit by name. So it inspired a lot of people like Betsy Johnson, Calvin Klein, Anna Sui, Willie Smith, Antonio, bunch of artists back in the day who were probably, I'm imagining, teenagers in the 50s. You could be a teenager in the 40s because Katie Keene started in 1945. So by 45, and then, the turn of into the 1950s, I mean, this is the time of like World War II, the pinup girl movement with like Betty Page is a big one, and so they basically were encouraging people to artists, especially to create pinup girls for the men overseas to send in their art. Like I'll show you. Here's a good example. This was in a magazine. So here's Katie Keene. I think it might be Betty Grable. It's a famous pose that she's doing there. So sort of an Americana vibe. And that was the kind of stuff that was on the noses of the airplanes and drawn on tanks and stuff in those early days. Because the boys overseas had to what are they fighting for? I'm fighting for America and my wife back home, or my girlfriend, and all that kind of stuff. So the pinup girl was a really important part of our culture at the time. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just kind of blown away because I'm thinking in my mind, I'm like, have these pictures even ever seen digital or beyond just being published in a magazine? I'm sure some of these original works that were sent in have never been seen by anyone other than your grandfather. Because they sent them directly to him, and he would take them and put them in the magazine through the storyline. And I just think it's so cool to be part of this, to where I might be actually one of the first people to ever see that digital. I mean, of course, you're seeing them, and your J-Bra is seeing them as you guys are doing the archives. But to be, I guess, I feel special that you let me see these behind the scenes things, because some of these may have never been seen outside of the office.
No, you're 100% right, because it was basically like, let's just take it back to the 45, 55, 65. By 1962, Katie Keene TV took over, and it he got a letter or a telegram or something saying Katie Keene's canceled because the readership was down because television took over. But he kept working on alternative other comics like Debbie's Diary, and he worked for Split Pea Anderson's, the Pea Soup Andersons up in was it Buellton, and what else? Rusty's Pizza in Santa Barbara, Carpinteria, and so he basically did coloring books for kids. That was his jam, and he kept he kept building the file. Like I find something in there from like 1991, because maybe it's a postcard from 1991 that he put into his file. But then I'll find next to it something from 1936. So it's very very old, and it's like his personal private file. That's his own reference file. So these are the files of Bill Loggins, so to speak, and no, definitely. And so it's interesting too, because I've had to move the work a few times, and so I first got the call in 2018 from my cousin, bless her heart, Nancy. She called me and said, Jericho, we're down at Aunt Susie's house, and we're getting her house clean, and helping her getting ready for assisted living. This is my aunt, and my aunt was Sis the Candy Kid in the comic book. My grandfather used some of his family members as inspiration for some of the characters in the comic book. So once I got the call that they were working on and moving some office stuff at my granddad's, I got right down there, and thankfully I was in Santa Barbara at the time, so it was quick. And I just started to, if anyone else has to ever go into their grandparents' house or their parents' house to sort of like sort things out after someone's passing, or they just need help cleaning, I just created boxes for each family member. And if I saw someone's homework from when they were in 4th grade, I put it in that box. It says Nancy or David or, each family member. So I specifically focused on, of course, extracting Grandpa and getting all Grandpa's files more or less in order. And so one cool thing is we're working on right now is the the two filing cabinets that contain essentially his morgue file. So
No, that's amazing, you know, because a lot of times those things will just get thrown out. No one's interested, you know. It's like, oh,
exactly.
grandpa's comic book, so what? But the fact that you're the junior or even the second or third or fourth because of your name, William Jericho Wagon, and that you've seen that and you keyed in on something that maybe someone else didn't see as valuable, but being an artist, the artist that you are, and the culture, you know, being the Los Angeles art scene, you just knew intuitively that, hey, this stuff is more valuable than gold. And this is something that I may never sell. This is something that should be taken care of and cherished. You know, and me personally, you know, I love comic books. I always was excited Sunday get the colored comic books and the longer things, and I was just so happy to get that Sunday paper and to just relive that in the moment of right now where you're sharing these things. It is bringing back a flood of emotion that's so happy and just so wonderful. And yeah, granted, we grew up with TV and Saturday cartoons, but there was still something. You know, it sparked the child curiosity, the child creativity of, oh, I want to participate and I want to draw and send in, and maybe I'll get published one day. And who knows, Jericho, maybe some of those young artists that sent in a couple ideas that your grandfather published, just it inspired them to continue a life of art. You know, who's to say where those kids ended up or where they went because of that little motivation, that little connection between a published comic writer and just some kid that likes to read comics and felt like they had a cool idea, you know, because all it would take is just one picture that they sent in to be published, and they're inspired and they're excited and they want to keep going with what they enjoy, art.
Exactly, you're right. And you know, so it was that spark of creativity that Grandpa opened up the door for kids to send in their letters. Of ideas. Essentially, send me your ideas for Katie Keene outfits. Send me ideas for K.O. Kelly, different characters in the comic book. Then he would receive them, and it was at some points it was like, I think it says, I'll pull it out at some point. It was like 2,000 to 5,000 letters per week, I believe he received, or maybe per month. I'd have to fact check that. But it was an abundance of mail, snail mail, old school, with a stamp and the whole thing. So he received that, and then they opened every single letter. It was definitely a family project. Like his wife, his daughter, and his son. His son was born in 1941, my dad. So by 1948, they moved to Santa Barbara. My dad was 7 years old. So as a 7-year-old kid, he was essentially assisting to some degree with, you know, here, Junior, open up this letter, and then he would see what's inside of it, and then make the decisions on what's coming in and what's going to get published and what's going to get transferred to the comic book. And thankfully, in 1978, a lady named Mary-Lise Flusser, she was an original fan from when she was a little girl, and she basically was finding comic books at swap meets in New York and different places like that. And so she decided to take it upon herself, because she realized the inspiration was there to write, because my grandfather used to include everyone's address beside their drawing and their name. So that way kids could correspond with each other as well, like a fan club. And
oh, wow.
So kids were
super cool.
Totally. Kids were corresponding with each other, you know, through the fan club, and they were encouraged to start their own fan clubs. So it was like kind of like micro communities of comic book fans, you know, specific on Katie Keene more or less. And then so she then wrote letters. Mary-Lise Flusser wrote she wrote one letter and then made copies of it, of course, and she made 500 letters with a questionnaire about Katie Keene, like tell me about your experience with Katie Keene. Do you remember the day? Da 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 da. And then she got like, I think like a 25% or 20% return rate on the letters she sent out. So she in 1978 published an article in the Soho Weekly, including what she had gotten back from the fans, and those fans included Betsy Johnson, Anna Sui, Calvin Klein, Willie Smith, those notable fashion designers from back in the day, who had already cemented themselves into the fashion industry through various, locations and places, but they had grown up with Katie Keene, and then that inspired them to start a career in it, perhaps an education, then leading to a career. And then once they had a career in fashion, it was like by good fortune, good talent, all the things that the combination of many things that make someone a successful fashion designer. So thankfully there is a group, and there's some of them are still alive, but they need to be sort of recontacted again, and to get their new take on the whole thing. Now that we've just passed another 30 years of time, so it's a lot.
No, that's so cool, because like the beatnik thing you were sharing, and just the wartime thing, it really is, back in the day, that's where the popular culture, you may have heard that term, pop culture, really was centered. Print was the media, and magazines were the news, and comic strips were the entertainment for kids. But all that kind of wove into the fabric of that comic strip, really what was going on in the world, what was going on in the group consciousness, if you will, society, the American dream. It's all kind of woven into this comic strip. And it's, we see it these days, with the Simpsons and South Park, where they're bringing in the culture and the pop culture and what's going on in the news into these comic strips, and maybe weaving them in a way that's more appealing to the younger audience, or maybe more appropriate as far as for entertainment. But I see art, music, poetry, art, like your installations that you were doing at the music festivals, as just an expression of what's going on, really feeding that pop culture of what society is, and with what's going on with the internet today, it's just so overwhelming at times. There's so much perspective being shared out, that to stop, take a pause, and take a look back, to me is very appealing. I know that some people want to hear the new news, but I guess I'm kind of nostalgic. I like looking at some of the older, looking at the history. Being a Summerland picker, I watch some of these things like Pawn Stars and stuff, and like you see some of these storyboards that maybe are Mickey Mouse, or some very super high more popular, I guess, than Katie Keene, even though Katie Keene was a super popular thing. But just those single one-page storyboards are going for tens of thousands of dollars. And the fact that you're, rather than saying, oh, let's sell them, you're saying, no, let's archive them. Let's make a public display of the history of what is, comics. Sure, we got Stan Lee and DC and Marvel that obviously Stan Lee is probably one of the most well-known. But to even be able to associate, for me, so excited to be able to associate with a legacy such as the Wagon, the Wagon Wheel Ranch, and these things. I guess, I'm kind of doing my own thing, trying to bring myself elevated to the level of where we can get $50 million to get our homes back in Summerland. Starting to see that, hey, it's possible, because here I am, just some random kid from Summerland, hanging out with some other random kid from Summerland, talking about what Grandpa did, and being just even to be able to mention, okay, Jericho's grandpa, Bill Wagon, did comic strips at the same time Stan Lee was doing comic strips. Just to be able to say that, I don't know, it just kind of elevates me to a certain level. Of like, wow.
a guy, this is under the divers file. So there's an old diving suit, how the old guys wharf in Santa Barbara. This may have been someone getting ready for a deep sea dive back in the day, you know. Here's another interesting one.
Okay, so he's got files of pictures
Yeah.
that he used. Oh,
So that's like
wow. So the guy was
yeah,
there.
so that's someone diving. So it's a reference for him on here's another good one. So there's a deep sea diver back in the day. How the marine technology of the 20th century, and it's illustrated by someone. And then when my grandfather felt like he had to pull up a file on diving, here's another good one. Let's see here. Try to get that right for you. Yeah.
Oh wow.
So this is.
Oh, is that like a
Kraken's
arm around him?
Totally. So because when you're my grandfather's from Toledo, Ohio, and he may I don't exactly know, but the Pacific Ocean may be the first experience. I mean, being from back east area, perhaps he went to New York and saw the Statue of Liberty in person back in the day. And I have to ask my dad about that. But getting to the Pacific Ocean for someone who's not from the ocean area, things like diving and fishing and deep sea fishing and marlin and all that stuff, that's a whole nother ballgame for someone who's like lives in the middle America, so to in order to educate yourself on specific images, to be able to redraw them, you have to have your own file to create that, or you go to the library. But it's better to, of course, have your own home reference system. So here's another.
No, and that's just amazing, because nowadays all you gotta do is type into Google, and it'll bring up 1,000 different images.
Looks like 2,000 Leagues Under the Sea or something. Like just the classic. So some of these artists they're drawing for different publications. Sometimes it's for ad purposes. So there's many different, it says fireworks at 20 fathoms. So that's for underwater welding. So underwater welding back in, what is this, 40? I don't even know, but I do know that.
No, there was probably quite a few of those underwater welder guys around the Summerland area. Totally. Those oil derricks. That's what they use, the underwater welders, to repair them.
Way back in the day, this is someone's, illustrated interpretation of a deep sea diver. So, it's very fascinating, because my grandfather was born in 1911. So in his teenage years, I want to say that's when, because he did get a job working for a local department store as an art director, because back then everything was hand drawn for ads. So for the ads for the department store, whether it was chocolates, a chair, an umbrella, whatever they were selling at the department store, they would run an ad in the newspaper like, hey, we're having a spring sale. And Grandpa would have to draw all the items that they were requesting him to draw. So that's probably when he started at age 16. He probably had a file already. His brother Elmer was born in 1892, and he was definitely inspired by his brother, because his brother was also a cartoonist and was also employed by the local newspaper. So I think he definitely started with his brother, basically as his assistant. So as his brother's assistant, drawing and inking. And I think what it was is they were also trying to not work at the bakery, because this guy's dad had his own bakery. So they actually use the bread boards when they used to knead the bread and stuff. They snag those boards and use them for drawing boards instead of a bread board. You know,
us kids, when we're kids, we do what we can to get
right?
what we want. I guess
Yeah.
we don't see it as a breadboard. We see it as what we're using it for,
board.
and that's just
Yeah.
amazing, man. I just want to sit here all day and let you go through every page and show it to me.
I know, it's classic.
So cool. Show me some more. Come on,
Yeah,
Jericho.
I know. I feel you, man. It's like I realized with our shout out to thank you Walmart. You know, I know it's a little controversial sometimes with Walmart, but they did have, because I'm in a small town, and the days of the camera shop are sadly gone. So I had to get a tripod. So I bought a $20 tripod for our broadcast. But what I realized is I want to have it be shooting downward ish, you know. So it's a little kind of have to rig it to be able to actually physically be able to turn the pages and have you be able to see the pages. I might do a clip where when the show's over, and I'll send you a video clip of me shuffling through the pages so you can see a little more content, you know? Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna try something here, Jericho.
Okay.
I'm gonna try something here because you did send a bunch of pictures
some shots.
to me this
we
morning.
can talk about it. Yeah.
And I think if I do this correctly, I can actually do a screen share.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah,
of some of those. So let me try that real quick.
Yeah.
And we'll see if we can't get.
So Aaron and I, we're working on pretty limited technology. I mean, we're not Joe Rogan here. Shout out to Joe Rogan, but yeah. So that's a shot. You know, of the these are the images. That's the folders. I'm gonna rewrite the titles and stuff to make it a little cleaner and nicer, and probably write my grandfather's name on it. That way, if someone happens to find the folders, they'll know what the heck I'm talking about. What's in the folder. I mean, I just quickly wrote what's in there. So there's soldiers. Yeah, there's a whole file on soldiers, and that was an interesting thing that I could tell what the file was by looking at what was inside the file, but the name was missing. So I wrote soldiers because I figured that was essentially the primary the primary content in that file was soldiers or war related. So I just put soldiers as the title tagline on that. So it's what's so great about some of these images that you can look them up later and find out more about that particular artist. And there probably is a way to do a Google image search or Google Lens that particular image, because if the image doesn't have a title on it, then it's challenging to. That one's amazing. It's like there's looking to fire and having a whole flashback of sorts. Him in his own of.
I like how it's coming out of the guy's pipe. The smoke.
Exactly. Wow. So I mean, I'm fascinated by all the images. I was always fascinated with art, and so it's very and then stuff like that. I think that was under cowgirl and Indian. So he had a whole cowgirl and Indian file. So the classic that's definitely like the late, I would say 1940s. And then little things like that, because hey, if you got to draw a Western shirt, you might as well get it right. Classic. That's awesome. Yeah, it's great to see it in this format.
No, this is kind of fun, Jericho, because it's like, okay, so when you're drawing a Western hat, you got to have an example.
Totally. Yeah.
And if you're, oh, wow, what's this? Hold on.
So, yeah, there's a letter.
So this is a return address.
Yep.
At the Wagon Wheels Ranch. That is classic.
Yeah, it's classic.
And then he would send these back to the kids.
Yeah, send them back to the kids, and it was like 10 cents for a paper doll. And then it had some outfits, or 25 cents, I can't remember, but it would have some outfits with the with his mailers, you know. So yeah, just great. You know, it's going to be fun to get into the see what's next. Like today, I had yesterday there was we were getting close because we're basically working a 3 hour shift, and that my thought on that is like it's a 6 man-hour type of project, with 3 hours per guy, we get 6 hours total. Okay, cool. So we completed 3 binders yesterday, and what I realized quickly is I'll need more plastic sleeves, because we barely we probably got like, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We finished 13 files, but we probably have another 100. I'm just guessing, So in terms of quantity, I haven't figured it out yet, but all I know is I have 100 binders ready to go, minus the 3 I finished today. So it's going to be a journey,
How many of them clear sheets protectors fit in each binder?
Well, I would say, like, for example, this one is the funny one. It's only 1 binder. This one, and this is just Columbus and Jesus. So this whole thing is just Christopher Columbus and Jesus. So,
wow, and that's probably what, 100 sheets?
More than that. I think there's about 200 and change. I think it's about 225. So this is probably 225. So maybe it's 125 Jesus, 125 Columbus. I don't know.
So you're basically going to need 10,000 plastic sheets.
No, you're right, bro. Yeah. So this one is soldiers, divers, cowgirl, Indian, New Year's ideas. And this one's a little thinner. We might be able to fit another file in here, but that's a couple hundred pages. So you're right. I mean, he estimated like 8,000. I just said 8 to 10,000 of those clear sheets. And I don't want to. You could go back and forth on, oh, well, should we? If the image is small, should you put 2 images in there? And that's fine. But I mean, I would prefer each image have its own plastic. I mean, if it's an extra $200 or $500, it doesn't matter. I feel like it doesn't matter in terms of, I want to try to get that in my head. Like, cost doesn't matter. Forget about the cost. Just make it happen.
Oh, I'm doing. I'm doing. Me. I'm trying to accelerate. What I'm doing. Especially since talking back to you and actually looking at what it would cost us to get back to Summerland. And, just thinking about a $2 million house or a $10 million house is just way, way over here. But I have to reach up there because, I know. I remember the days of just being on the beach in Summerland and being a kid and not worrying, if you had a $1 or $2, you'd go get a popsicle or a candy bar and you got what you needed. You got what you wanted and you didn't worry about it. And I got to kind of tap into that childhood magic again, I think.
No, that's absolutely. That's the main thing. And for me, it's like, tapping the childhood magic and respecting, the elders and all that with what they left behind. Because I just know that it just feels like in my heart, it's the right thing to do, even though it's like, it's a time out for me in terms of like my own art. But I have to. I feel like it's a duty, and there may be a chance where I get, 10 people or something to work all at once together, so we can crush a larger number of volume, in a shorter amount of time, because it is just all about putting the piece of paper in the slip sleeve and putting it in the right binder with a freaking cover on it. Because I just basically made like. I'll show you, like, I'll just say C quest, just writing, I just wrote this like little, C quest. whatever the name of the file is, it just goes in the binder, and on the cover of the binder it says like, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, whatever the titles are. So that's kind of it. And I knew that because I've been with this project now since 2018, but COVID totally took me out in terms of like time. Like I didn't, in retrospect, maybe I would have made this like my COVID project or something, but I just was like, frick it, like time out. And as soon as I could get a job, I did. And I worked for the local Humane Society and did some time for the animals for 2 years / almost 3 years. I worked for them. So that was a time block where, in terms of productivity on Grandpa at the time was in California still, in like office limbo, like waiting. And so just last August, that's when I got the office. I officially moved the office to Colorado, rented an office, and officially started it, having it in one room, a place I could go, 5 days a week, and try to establish a little routine. And I did, and through that, essentially, I think we're at like month 10. So by month 10, I finally figured out I need 100 binders and I need 10,000 sheets of plastic slip covers. But it honestly took me that long. I was slowly moving along, but it wasn't quite snapping, So finally we're in snap mode. So here we go.
Yeah, and you know what? These right here, I know you still have a few of them. And you said it a while back that this is the barter system.
That's the barter system.
$100 million ties. These are original Jerichoaga 2018. It looks like this one's a numbered 88. I don't know how I got the 88. But then this black one here, this one's very special.
Yeah.
Because this is 2 of 12.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that was just a dozen. Is that a black one?
This is the black and silver one. This is classic, classy.
Yeah.
And I don't know what these retail for. I would imagine $40 or $50 you could get.
That's a good mark. It's got to be like where potentially like $30 would be, but then shipping, and thankfully shipping isn't too much. But I think that would be sort of like a very fair rate. I mean, one of my friends recommended 20, like just a straight, if I was at but 20 is like, that's still like kind of like on the nose, on the low end, in terms of that price. And so anyways, I did get like 24 new pieces, like 24 new pieces to work with. But I definitely, I got to, I could stop by the tire shop. I'd like to get a little more head behind the actual print to know a little bit more about what I'm using, because nowadays people are, I think, shopping for tires from an economic perspective in some cases, like what can I afford? But there's also a lot of technology. It's interesting to think that some designer is designing the tread of the tire. That whole on a computer, they're figuring out what traction, what's good for cornering, what's good for road racing. I think in recent time I could probably figure out or a favorite of the guys that are doing the Fast and the Furious, like the little rice burner race cars. Like, what are they using? Are they on Pirellis? I don't know, but it'd be cool to print that, to a little nod to the Fast and the Furious or something like that. Get Vin Diesel to sport one of my ties.
Yeah, that would, that's kind of all it takes really anymore is if you get a celebrity with fame to say, this guy, look at this guy.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden everyone's looking at you going, hey, I want what this guy got. So I want what this guy's doing.
Yeah.
But I mean, as far as if people are interested, I know that you were saying that you would send them ties if they send you sheets of that clear transparency.
Exactly. And so, like I do have a really close friend, Scott, from Los Angeles. He's now I think he's back east, but nonetheless, I spoke with him yesterday. He sort of semi-anonymously sent me a pack of 500, and it said like, to Jericho Blues Man Wagon or something. I'm like, I have no idea who it's from. Like, this is rad. Thank you. So I found out yesterday he did send me 500. He's sending me 500 more. So he's just a super bro. Like, he's on the gold star, 1,000 mark on sending me 1,000 sheep protectors. So anyways, that's the good news on that.
No,
So
I shopped for them. I didn't find the 500 packs.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look and see, because I heard the Dollar General and places like that they probably have smaller amounts, but I might go shop locally if I can. I ordered a few myself, like five. I think I ordered 1,000. So it's like stomaching the reality of the cost, but also trying to, like, I've had a day to process it. So it's like, just understanding the needs and filling that need with with the content, I guess, whatever. So anyways, making it happen.
That's it's definitely something you got to pay attention to, budget and finances, especially in today's society. You don't want to spend all your money on sheet covers and not be able to pay for your gas to get to the office.
Exactly. So so anyways, so I'll tomorrow I'll probably have 3 more binders. We're gonna put our 3 hours in today as soon as we get back to the studio, back to the homestead, and just get on. I'm doing the the 3-hour workday in terms of filling binders with content. So
no, that's awesome. Keep those photos coming. I think
I will.
To help you stay on track. What I want to do is kind of stay focused on just sharing the stuff you're doing. So I mean, maybe it's self-serving. Hey, let's get some content that no one else has.
It's A+, because I feel like it needs to be shared. And you're technically savvy on the platform, and it's great for us because together the Summerland Kids win. We win together, man. We share together. We all that. So I'm gonna make an effort.
Now, how many times did I go down to the beach and someone brought an extra boogie board or a surfboard because maybe I didn't have one, or maybe I didn't bring one that day. It wasn't an issue of that's mine. It was, hey, yeah, I got an extra one. Come ride the waves with me and us, and we're all out there, and it's just brings back so many memories. Jericho,
for sure.
Almost at an hour. We got 7 more minutes. If you want to try and fill out 7 more minutes, we can have an hour show.
Yeah, that's cool for sure. Yeah, so my dad is now on the property. This guy's son, Bill Wagon Jr. the second, or I got to ask him about in the line of men. What number am I? So, anyways, but on that note, let's see. He said he wants to get the internet, so that's cool. Because I've been living off the grid and just using my cell signal with a cell phone booster. Shout out to T-Mobile. It's been working. But the fact that he wants to get the internet would be helpful to us, to have that for us. Yeah.
Oh, what did I do? I put you on there by yourself.
Oh, okay. So anyway,
I'm pressing button 42.
Short, yeah, 42. Long story short, hopefully the internet is coming. I think I will possibly stop by. It's called Century Link, I think, is a local internet provider for us up here. And it's funny, on the Pagosa Springs message Facebook page, everyone's always talking smack about every service provider that complaining about the service, except Starlink. Shout out to Elon Musk, because everyone loves Starlink. But I think Starlink might be like $150 a month or something like that. Plus, you got to buy the gear, So I don't know, man. It's a little costly.
But it's your dad, and I mean, once you get the office moved back to your ranch, you're going to save a lot in gasoline. So
I
maybe
know.
you could, start squeezing that budget from going back and forth into town 5 days a
Absolutely.
week.
Yeah, no, in 50-50 split between myself and my dad, it's not a bad deal. And even if he rolls out, still having the internet is a bonus. Um, it's almost like to me, it's like a cell phone booster, on steroids or something. Because at least you'll have two chances to win. You can either get on your phone and try to hook up to get a signal, or you can get on the Wi-Fi and try to pull it there. So that's what's up.
Yeah, and I imagine it's kind of like when I was out at the ranch. There was certain spots like up on the hill where you'd get a really good reception, but once you went down the valley area, the reception would just each step would get less and less and less.
That's exactly the story. That's exactly it. Like last night, I went up on the hill just to like try to get something to send or get because it said post pending or something on Facebook. I'm like, just post already. But taking it for granted, it's I guess it's a good thing to not take things for granted. Like don't take the internet for granted because it's a luxury. The internet's a freaking luxury, man. Right?
Oh goodness, I've been watching the solar flares. There's a lot of news about the solar flares, some pictures and stuff. The aurora borealis is heading into California, and that just kind of makes me wonder, with the electronics, the EMPs, could it shut down the internet? And if it did, gosh, what would happen? Would the world shut down?
We'll have to go back to the newspaper. We'll have to get a newspaper printed and get our Sunday funnies the old-fashioned way on paper. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. Oh my gosh.
Right.
Just thinking about it, it brings a little bit of fear going, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? But then at the same time, it's like, wow, that would be kind of cool, to survive without internet.
Yeah, it's like your connection is the kid riding by on his bicycle, throwing you a newspaper off his bike. Remember the old, like delivering newspapers? That was your connection to the world. It was little Scotty riding by on his bike, throwing you a paper.
That was my first legitimate business. I was an independent contractor at 12 years old, delivering papers.
That's
awesome. The toughest part was going and knocking the doors to collect that monthly subscription that sometimes you didn't get. It came out of my pay as a 12-year-old. That was really eye-opening.
Right? Wow. And especially in Summerland with all those hills, if you were doing it in that area,
I was in Morro Bay, and
cool.
I lived on right next to Hill Street, and that's pretty much a steep incline hill. So I'd have to, I had a little route, and then just going down that hill.
The workout.
Because I had to deliver the papers, had to go down the hill.
Yeah, exactly. Classic. Well, thanks for another good show, man.
Man, I don't believe it, Jericho. We did it almost an hour today.
Yeah, we're rocking.
Tigger's so excited. He has an exclamation point.
Cheers, man. Coffee with the Summerland Kids. Thank you guys for joining us on our chat and journey through life as adults, but with child heart and mind, spirit. Yeah.
And that, like we always do, we gotta don't forget. Thumbs up.
Aaron Riggs. We're Coffee with the Summerland Kids. You guys have a wonderful day. Peace out.
Smash that like. Smash that subscribe.
Smash the like button.
Smash that follow.
Yeah.
2 thumbs. Make a comment. Do a share.
Yeah. Have a great afternoon, guys. Thank you.